Hello guys, welcome to our course. In this course, we will try to improve our calculations from 1000 to 1600 ELO chess. Okay, this course from the book Improve Your Chess Calculations for Ramesh. We will focus on level 1 from 1200 to 1600 ELO rating. In the first chapter, we will know that there's dynamic and static positions. Dynamic positions are complex, open, attacking positions. There's there's important things on there's critical areas to learn for dynamic positions. Number 1, calculations. Number 2, attack, and we will make a new course for attacking from the book The Art of Attack. This first position, okay, the writer say that we should think minimum for 2 minutes. We may think for more. Okay, let me put the position. Pawn. And there is a bishop. And here there's a rook. White bishop. Dark bishop. Pawn. 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 Okay. No, this is not true. I think it's here and pawns. Yeah. Okay, in this position, we play with white, and we need to find a forced win. A forced win for white. Okay, how may we find it? First, we need to think about checks. I try to find checks with my strongest piece first. For example, check with the rook. Check. King takes, and I do not see any winning. Okay, what about now I will think about a lower piece. This light piece, the bishop can do one check with bishop d4, and my opponent is forced to take with the rook because there's only two squares for the king g8 and king g7. The light bishop close king g7. So when I check with king d4, I will find that my king cannot move. When the king when there's a check, king our opponent can do three things. The first thing, to capture my chicken piece, if he can, to move his to move our king or to block. We said that the king can't move because the squares the squares g7 and g8 are closed. g8 with the light bishop, and with my chicken piece with bishop d4 will block the g7 square. So my opponent is forced to take with his rook. After this move, I will try to find check capture threat. I will find that rook takes can do not give me any something. And this is my only check, and also rook on c8 do not give me any something because the king can go to the g7 square, and also the rook g8 do not add any something for me because simply the king can move to the f6 or the h8, the h6 square. So I will try to find a capture. I will simply the most logical move after bishop with d7 d with d4 check. After rook takes, pawn takes. The most logical. After this move, simply my opponent will take with the bishop. And I will find that my opponent has a pass pawn. The c4 pawn is a pass pawn, and I will try to just close for that pawn, and I may sacrifice my light squares bishop in the pawn because this may be a queen. Okay, now all my checks doesn't work. Check with bishop doesn't work, and with the rook doesn't work. So what may I do? After checks we think about capture. Maybe rook takes here. Rook takes, my opponent mostly will take with the rook, and bishop takes. Rook takes, rook takes rook, bishop takes. And I will find that I have two bishops against a rook and a bishop. So that this also doesn't work. What about taking with the bishop? My opponent will simply take this pawn, and I will see that my opponent has an exchange, and a rook against bishop with me, and an extra pawn. And this is not a winning. Actually, this is better for my opponent. Okay, I've talked about checks, the bishop and the rook, and capture. Bishop takes doesn't work, and rook takes doesn't work. What about threat? Okay, okay, I can threat the bishop with the rook, but simply my opponent will take the pawn, the c3 pawn, and this doesn't give me anything. What about rook on the a7? Simply my opponent will exchange rocks, and I will find that my opponent has an exchange, and actually he will take this pawn, the c3 pawn, and his pawn will be a passed pawn. Passed pawn. Okay, what about rook on the d7 threat? Threatening to take the rook. My opponent will simply take, and when I take back, he will move his rook on a3, and will take the pawn, and will take my c3 pawn, and his c4 pawn will be a passed pawn, so this threat doesn't work. My last threat. Rook on the c8. Okay, this is what the ancient think is the best move. But okay, simply I here take a full look. I'm a full lookup. As simply as that, and I will simplify as this. Block. Here and I do that. Do this. And I took the pawn. And all the chess is mine. Now everything is mine. Okay, let me just go far from the engine. Okay, we said that this is the missed move, but let me answer a question. Why why made the engine make a move like that? Like, what is this stupid move? He leave a full work. It leaves a full work because simply let me because simply if rook takes rook, wait. Oh, because simply when I do that, if rook takes rook, the rook is no longer defend the d4 square. So this is checkmate. This is that. This is the first dynamic position. Okay. Oh, the book do not think this position is that it helps us to get interesting position. Okay, I don't want level 3, no, level... This is also as level 3. Task 2... Okay, 17 minutes. Let me try to take just one more. Level 4. Tactics, okay. Here in this position, we should try to find a forced win for right. Time to think is 2 minutes, and this is minimum. I can think more simply. Okay. So the okay, I will try to put the situation. Here. Okay, here, white bishop here. With king and 3 pawns. Okay, let me talk first about this point. He say here that there's that the third thing about dynamic positions, the third important thing is tactics. This is the ability to sacrifice material to reach a higher objective. And here he says that many positional players are afraid to sacrifice material if the outcome is not clearly and visibly in their favor. Those players mostly end up becoming players who mainly value positional factors higher than dynamic factors. And he say that the book has positions with all kinds of tactics. Okay. Here I should find a forced win for white. Let me think. Let me try to see the position in a tactical way. I can see that Black King has a weak background because my bishop close the h7 square. So if I give him any check from the back rank, it will be a checkmate if there is no defenders. Back. So here I will think. Here I will think. I will see here that the king has a weak back rank. What is the most logical? So let me think about. First, we think about checks. Check with my strongest piece, the queen. This is the only check. Queen on e8. Yeah, simply my opponent will take with the d rock, and will I check again with my e rock, he will take with his a rock. And simply I just sacrificed a queen for nothing. Okay, let me think about think if there's any other checks. I will see that the cannot give any check, and my bishop can give a check. Yeah, there's bishop check. The king will take. King takes with king take h7, and maybe knight g5 check, pawn take pawn take g5, and queen with a check. The king will simply go back. What about rook here? Rook on the h4 trying to make any battery. This doesn't work because the king can survive like that. Let me see. Okay, and this is check here. King here. What about rook here? Oh, I will find that there's a pawn. The pawn moved from the h6 to the g5, blocking the h4 square, or actually defending it. So I will. So I found that this tactic doesn't work. Let me tie there. Okay, so there's no check the tour. The second thing we think about is capture. Queen doesn't have any capture. And okay, here queen doesn't have any capture. This rook doesn't have any capture. What about this? There's two captures with this rook. Rook takes d5 and rook takes a4. Rook takes d5. The rook cannot take. Oh oh. And there's another problem. There's a bishop. There's a hanging bishop. So if I rook take with the rook cannot take because queen. We think about checks. Queen e8 check. The a rook takes and rook e8 checkmate because my bishop close the h7 square. Let me think about it. Okay, what a move. What engine say? Oh, engine say when they do that, the bishop, if the rook moved, I will just take the bishop. So the rook, um, Stockfish say take the knight, trying to throw the bishop in something. And rook takes rook, queen takes because, and then I take here. So why is this a win? Here I found that my piece queen against a queen, rook against rook, bishop against rook, and two pawns against three. So this is my first advantage. Material. 3 against 2, I can make a pass pawn. The second something is that my rook is an active piece. It takes all the file. All the E file is mine. And this is what the book say. Rook takes d5. It's a move, and white win this way. Thank you guys for watching the video. In the next video we will complete the course.